Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In the last video, I had told you about the separation of the components from a mixture by using various techniques. If you had missed them, then you can check them in the description box. And today we will discuss about the difference between a physical and chemical change and the types of the pure substances. So let's start it quickly. First of all, we want to know what is the basic difference between physical and chemical change. There are so many physical properties which we have learned in the previous chapter, such as it can be the color, it can be the density, melting point, boiling point, hardness, etc. But sometimes what happen, suppose we just convert ice to water and water to water vapor, right? But in all those two processes, there is only physical change is happening. I mean to say there is only the interconversion of states taking place. इसके अंदर इन प्रोसेस में कोई भी केमिकल चेंज नहीं हो रहा है सिंस जो कॉम्पोजिशन है इट इज ऑल टुगेदर सेम वाटर is only the substance which is present in all these phases, right? Suppose we take another example. We take water and cooking oil. Both are liquids, but they differ in their odor, inflammability, and different properties, such as we know oil burns in air, but water extinguishes the fire, which are altogether different properties of these two liquids. And combustion is a chemical change. So chemical change brings about change in chemical properties of the matter. And we can also say a chemical change can be a chemical reaction. It is the main difference between a chemical change and a physical change. Now coming towards the types of the pure substances. As we all know that on the basis of the chemical composition, we had classified substances into two types. They can be elements or compounds. Now what are the elements? Elements is a basic form of matter which cannot be broken down into simpler substances by any chemical reactions. Or we can say कि जो smallest part है which can take part in any chemical reaction is known as element, which is the basic form of matter. Now we know elements can be normally classified into three types, which are metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Now metals have several different properties, such as they had a good shine, a good color, and they can conduct heat and electricity. They are ductile, which means that they can be drawn into wires, which we generally used to conduct the electricity in our homes. And they are also malleable, which can be considered as that they can be hammered into thin sheets, right? And the last one, which is they just make a ringing sound when they are hit by any material. For example, sodium, potassium, gold, silver, copper, these are all examples of metals. But non-metals have somewhat different properties, such as they display a variety of colors, they are not so good conductors of heat and electricity, they are not lustrous, they are not ductile, they are not malleable. For example, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine, bromine, iodine, etc. Now comes the third part, which is metalloids. They have some intermediate properties between those of metals and non-metals. For example, boron, silicon, germanium, etc. Now coming towards the compound. What is a compound? It is simply a substance which is composed of two or more elements but chemically combined, but with a fixed proportion. We can say that there are two conditions that the element should undergo chemical reaction. जब तक दो या दो से ज़्यादा elements chemically combine होंगे या chemical reaction करेंगे और एक नया product बनाएंगे but with same composition, the formed product will be known as a compound, such as CH4. C will always be in one part and hydrogen will always be in four part. So we will always get CH4, right? We can take it by doing an activity such as we can divide the class into two groups. We had some grams of iron fillings and we have taken some grams of sulfur powder in a china dish and we had divided into two parts, right? Group 1, we had just mixed and crushed both of these and provided it to group 1, and we had just mixed and crushed the iron fillings and sulfur powder, but we had heated this mixture strongly and then removed it from the flame, and then we had cooled the mixture and we had just provided this to group 2. Now what are the changes which group 1 and group 2 will observe? We have to check their texture, their color, their magnetizing properties. We can add carbon disulfide to one part of the material obtained. Then we can stir it well and filter. And to the second part, we can add dilute HCl or dilute H2SO4, and then we can notice the material obtained, right? Now the gas obtained by the group 1 will be hydrogen. It is colorless gas, odorless and combustible. So it is not advised to do the combustion test for the hydrogen in the class. Okay. And the gas obtained by group 2 will be hydrogen sulfide. It is also a colorless gas but with a different smell. So we can easily distinguish what group 1 and group 2 has obtained. The major differences between the properties obtained by group 1 and group 2 is group 1 has carried out only a physical change process, since whatever they are obtained is a mixture, right? But the activity done by group 2 has undergone a chemical change, or we can say a chemical reaction, and whatever they obtained was a compound, right? So it is all written in this paragraph that material obtained by group 1, we got a mixture of the two substances. So the properties of the mixture will be same as that of constituent, since the proportion is not fixed. But the material obtained by group 2 will be a compound, since it has a fixed proportion of the two combining elements. Now we can easily differentiate between mixtures and compounds, right? So first of all, what is a mixture? When two or more than two elements or compounds are just mixed together, they can form a mixture. But when elements are reacted, they form new compounds. And a mixture has a variable composition, but the composition present in the compound will always be fixed. A mixture will show the properties of the constituent compounds, but the compound will have totally different properties, and the constituents present in a mixture can be easily separated, but the constituents present in the compound can only be separated by a chemical reaction. Now moving towards the physical and chemical nature of the matter, here we are provided a table in which we can easily classify the matter. So matter has three phases: solids, liquids and gases. And matter can be classified into two types: pure substances and mixtures. Now pure substances can be further subdivided into two types. One of them is element and one of them is compound. Now what is element? We had just discussed it, that elements cannot be broken down to simpler substances. For example, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, gold, silver, etc. And next is the compounds. They have fixed composition and they can be broken down into their chemicals only by a chemical reaction. For example, water, methane, salt, sugar, etc. And now moving towards the mixtures. As we all know that mixtures have no fixed composition. They can be divided into two types: homogeneous as well as heterogeneous. Now homogeneous mixture will have uniform composition, as we have discussed earlier. For example, we dissolved sugar in water, salt in water, sulfur in carbon disulfide, and water in alcohol. And in case of heterogeneous mixture having non-uniform composition, such as when we mix sand and salt, sugar and salt, water and oil, etc. So, in this chapter, we have learnt about the pure substances, mixtures, their separation, determination of the concentration of the solution, properties of colloids, properties of suspensions, etc. So that's all for today, and in the next video we will read about atoms and molecules. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel for latest updates. Thanks for watching.